raised by some about the price of protecting the first family. Let's discuss now.
This is Don Lemon, winner of the prestigious Ivy League institution, the Columbia Journalism Review's Award for Worst Journalist of the Year. Don Lemon, Worst Journalist of the Year, has today assembled a crack team of Counterfeit News Network panelists, aka Safe Space support staff, aka a felonious murderer, felonious embezzler, and felonious social terrorist for a collective fake news attack against Donald Trump's security costs.
The cost of protecting the first family could be epic.
These costs will never be referenced against Obama's security costs, which, for the people that don't believe in fake news, ran just north of $1.4 billion a year, or, for reference, twice that of Donald Trump's.
Hypocrisy day in and day out.
Yep.
As we move forward towards the panel's mind-numbingly libelous charade, take note of Don Lemon, Worst Journalist of the Year's fatal mistake. This mistake, aka Glorious Hero of Truth, is named Paris Dennard, who has been relegated to speaking last, but in this case, last is also fourth, and as all decent Americans know, that's the motherfucker that hits grand slams.
Is there anything different now?
Well, there is a couple of things different here, Don. First of all, hypocrisy.
This is Maria Cordona. She was born in Colombia and moved to the United States at the age of 2, where she lived in Ohio and Florida and then graduated from Duke University. However, she does have the beautiful green eyes, lustrous blonde hair, and luminous white skin of a typical Colombian immigrant. Cardona first worked as deputy press secretary for Ronald Brown, that is until he was killed in a plane crash in Croatia, allowing her to take over as press secretary. Brown was found with a .45 caliber inwardly beveling circular hole in his head, quote, resembling a gunshot wound. Medical examiners under the Clinton administration decided not to order an autopsy. The crash was blamed on the failure of navigational aids. 3 days after the crash, the man responsible for maintaining the airport's navigational aids died by gunshot. It was ruled a suicide. Cardona would go on to become the Clintons' lead spokesperson on immigration, citing her ethnicity but not her life in Ohio nor degree from Duke University as a means to connect with the uneducated Latino community. I wonder how those policies are working out.
Hypocrisy day in and day out.
This is Andre Bauer. In January 2010, in comparing public school children who receive free lunches to stray animals who should not be fed, Bauer said, quote, my grandmother told me as a small child to quit feeding stray animals. You know why? Because they breed. You're facilitating the problem if you give an animal ample food supply. They will reproduce, especially ones that don't think too much further than that. And so what you've got to do is you've got to curtail that type of behavior. They don't know any better. End quote. The Associated Press then reported that as a child, Bauer benefited from free lunches. In 2006, Bauer himself was involved in a plane crash. In a moment of genius that was voted best political stunt of 2006, Bauer attempted to take off in a single-prop plane from an airstrip that was provably too short to take off from. But Bauer is most famous for being the target of a 2009 South Carolina Policy Council investigation for paying out nearly $10 million without a detailed accounting of projects' collections and expenditures. After the story ran, a spokesman for Bauer's office said his agency was, quote, still chasing down the numbers because we want to be absolutely certain we are right.
Hypocrisy day in and day out.
More than half a year later, the office has yet to turn over any additional information on the program. Also, in February 2009, Bauer unveiled the, quote, Lieutenant Governor's Transparency Initiative, which said he would give taxpayers an unprecedented view of his office finances. He posted accountability reports for January, February, and March 2009. Since then, he has simply linked to the Comptroller General's Spending Transparency website.
For going on vacation, for golfing.
This is Karine Jean-Pierre. In 2008, she worked as Southern Political Director for Barack Obama's campaign. In April 2016, she was hired by MoveOn.org, whose goal was to, quote, stand up to Donald Trump. I wonder how she did. Prior to utterly failing to stump the Trump, Jean-Pierre worked as the national political director for Martin O'Malley's failed presidential bid. You might remember O'Malley's infamous and unthinkable comment that, quote, all lives matter. Karine is the one who organized the Black Lives Matter speech.
Sorry to cut you guys short, but I want to get it all in before we have to go. Paris, what do you think?
I think this is fake news.
This is Paris Dennard. CNN respectfully asks you not to notice that he is the darkest-skinned person on this panel. Unlike the other 3 panel members, he supported Donald Trump in the 2016 election, and he looks like exactly what he is. And he looks like he's going to do exactly what he's going to do. Single-handedly hit a metaphorical grand slam and simultaneously end the careers of Maria Cordona, Bauer, Karine Jean-Pierre, and of course, the worst journalist of the year, Don Lemon, worst journalist of the year.
I think this is fake news. This is not a news story. Don,
Tell me what about it is fake, Paris. We're going to go. Are we going down this road again?
Yeah, we are.
Come on, Paris.
I didn't interrupt any of you all. Let me just tell you why. The president is not breaking any laws, and he's not doing anything. It's not his
Okay,
fault.
Paris, hold on. Let me ask you this.
No,
Let me ask you. I'm going to let you finish. I'm going to let you finish.
But Beyonce had the best fake news of all time.
Do you actually know what the definition of fake news is?
What we're doing right now.
No, okay, well
Because
then you are part of the fake news because you are on the network and you're part of the... Fake news is when you... Hang on, let me explain.
Fake news is what I tell you fake news is, so nobody think too hard about this being exactly what a purveyor of fake news would say.
And you know that it is wrong. I don't know of anyone who has put out a story in the mainstream media that I can think of right now to intentionally deceive anyone. Now, people get things wrong. Sources sometimes come up empty. But no one that I know has put out anything to intentionally deceive someone. This story that we're doing right now is not to intentionally deceive anyone. We are simply talking about the cost to keep a president safe, the Secret Service cost, and what are the pros and the cons, and if they're...
This is what little girls sound like when they are throwing a tantrum over Barbie dolls.
To make it fiscally better for the American people. There is nothing fake about that. Please stop it with that stupid talking point.
This is Don Lemon literally begging.
That it is a fake news story. If you don't want to participate in the news stories on this network, then don't come on and participate. But don't call them fake.
Don, this is a fake news story, in my opinion, because the underlying
Paris,
assumption
thank you very much,
is
everyone.
that...
Thanks, everyone. Thanks for watching. Have a great weekend.
This is what it looks like when Paris Dennard makes you run away from your own show, which, as a final point, probably has a lot to do with